else want to be heard?
Darlene Barney, 980. Understand our gas ordinance dates back to 2011. A lot has changed in the industry since that time, and changed for the better. Because of that, we cannot understand the desire to update the ordinance. However, no ordinance should be revisited until we have officially adopted our comprehensive plan, which has had a lot of time and money put into it. Adopt a comprehensive plan and move on to ordinances if ordinances change. Cannot zone out of the township. Setbacks must be reasonable and grounded in science. The DEP has said this. Townships can regulate where, but cannot regulate how. If township wants to increase setbacks, cannot be unreasonable. Should probably sit down with the industry to understand future plans and what everyone can live and work with. Right now, we know the operator isn't going to get a well permit unless they are at least 500 feet from a protected structure. Going through conditional use process now, we heard Range talk a lot about how they store water. Maybe we need to talk to them about how they store water and what we will and will not allow in our township. Oil and gas has been going on safely throughout this county and area, and new ordinances have been adopted in recent years. What are those ordinances saying? Can't we look at some of the newer ordinances? A lot of the concerns raised by residents are issues that are preempted by the Pennsylvania DEP and or the EPA. DEP or EPA, air monitoring, air permits, water testing, well permits won't be issued unless they are 500 feet from a protected structure. Oil and Gas Act of 2012, Chapter 78A, Clean Streams Law, Chapter 135, Preempted Local Zoning Law. Question, for example, township can ask for any air permits obtained from the DEP by the applicant, but cannot set their own air standards. Regulation should be grounded in science and reasonable. Reasonable does not mean what one person who has no formal knowledge of the industry wants. Cannot reapply for conditional use on a yearly basis. It's not legal. Conditional use can expire in 1 year, and the township does not have to renew it, but it would be up to the applicant to reapply at that point. So it is reasonable to assume conditional use would expire without any work occurring within a year unless the applicant asked for and was given an extension. The board doesn't have to grant extension, but the applicant can reapply. An applicant would potentially have to reapply if they are changing their land use by saying they have to reapply every year is not reasonable or legal. Does the township ask other industries or land uses to do this? I don't think so. For example, do builders, home developers have to come back every year that they are building houses in a plan that has already received approval? The current ordinance does not let operators do whatever they want. Does not let. Should you look at newer ordinances and see what the township can come up with and ask for input from industry? The other notation that I would like to make is somebody just made a comment about trees coming down, trees being cut down. Yes, you got that right. There is hardly any trees left in Cecil Township. Look at all these here housing plans. The trees were just completely annihilated, washed out, erosion, landslides, so on and so forth. Let's give range resources and the people in the township that have property left a chance to develop and use their land accordingly. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone on the board have anything they're missing? Huh? Go ahead. Here, actually, does he have to come here or go there?
Stop bringing the microphone.
Perfect, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. I do agree, stretching it out to 2025 is way too far. I think they should have to do something within 2 years of applying for a permit. The second thing is, as far as the distances, I think they're too far. I think 1,000 from the house and 3,000 from the school. 5,000 will pretty much put them out there and go nowhere in Cecil. But I also think if you have a large piece of property and you want to sign a waiver, you can permit them to drill as close as they want to your house. The owner should have that option. And clarify another thing, on the public road, I don't know if you saw it here, but they poured concrete on the edge of that whole road. Then they put the stone over it, that's called riprap. That's a standard in the industry for building a road. They actually supported the whole edge of the road before they paved over it. So the road should definitely hold up. And I agree with the road should be bonded from their pad up.
She's saying it's, Jocelyn's saying it's right here. Go ahead, Mark, you can. Go ahead.
I think the road should be bonded the rest of the way up by who's ever putting a gas line in. And they should be bonded on all the roads. Grange, Coleman, every road they're using up there. They should all be bonded, because they're using them all. Other than that, the rest of the stuff I can agree with you on.
Any other board members want to say anything? I'm sorry?
Not yet.
No. Later tonight or like in the future?
Before we vote on that,
Okay.
change it. Before we vote.
At some point, not tonight.
Okay.
It all goes before our board meeting. I just want to say I appreciate everyone who came and spoke tonight. I will tell you, and for clarification, do live in a housing plan. I would say it bothers me, but there is a perception that somehow housing plans took out all the trees. There is some level of clearing. But the person that owned that property would have had to have sell their property to a developer. So I think that's a point that needs to be called out, is that person that owned that property is choosing to sell to a developer and therefore using that property in that manner. So I think there's, it's constantly thrown out, the housing plans came in, let the people who had land be able to put oil and gas on it. And you can, as long as you follow the rules and regulations, but a lot of times the people that are impacted from oil and gas are more than just the people in a surrounding area. So the people that are selling to developers are choosing to do that. It's not being forced by the township. It's not a requirement by the township. And we have requirements where we are required to allow them to do that. So just for clarification on that. If anybody else